is John Galante, president of AE Ventures, and I'm here with another Builder Innovator Bull Session. So these guys barely know why they're here, but what a bull session is it's spontaneous, unscripted, freewheeling discussion. Let's go around the table and just do some self-introductions. Yeah. Adam, you're first.
Yeah, that makes sense because we were wondering why we were here today. So
who am I? Why am I here?
But yeah, thanks for inviting us here. So I'm Adam Green with Alarm.com. I run our corporate accounts and our strategic sales team. So what our product does is a one app to control automation, security, video all in your home. So we partner with security providers and builders to help deliver technology solutions and give homeowners the ability to have smart devices and control in their homes.
Cool. Frank.
Frank Ambrose, I'm VP of Sales for InOvate Products. I'm here because I'm a Taurus and it's a bull session, so that's why I thought I was here.
Me too, I'm a Taurus.
But InOvate, we used to focus on letting your dryer breathe by having a great dryer ventilation system. Now we're working on letting your whole home breathe because we know that home and getting fresh air and making sure it can breathe is something that's important.
Cool. Mike.
Mike Moxley. I'm the president and founder of ThreadKore. We're an ERP for home builders. We do everything from land acquisition through warranty. So accounting, finance, scheduling, document management, trade portal, customer portal, one environment for everything.
And you have previous experience as a builder, working in a home building company, a regional builder in the CFO function. Talk just a little bit about that, because I'm going to use your experience in this conversation.
So I was a CFO for a home builder. I had come out of public accounting. I was a consultant for about a decade, doing M&A consulting. Went to work for a home builder as a CFO. They were doing anywhere from 500 to 700 homes a year, and just saw that there were a ton of missing pieces, and nothing brought everything together, and so ultimately left that.
Yeah. Okay. So our topic is, how can we get more regional builders to innovate? And there's lots of different ways to innovate, and we cover a lot of them at this event. Yet I still talk to regional builders every day who are like, well, people don't want that technology stuff in my market, or there's no way to make money on it, or what have you. And we're at the point of irrationality on that. And I think that's not the only place, right? So why is there this entrenched bias against innovating among the regional builders? I know what they're going to say is we do personal service and we're local and that's how we compete against the big nationals, and I understand that, but don't you have to compete on the feature set, on the efficiency of the business with your software solution? So I'm looking for you guys to give me some answers on how we can provide a wake-up call and move those builders off of the schneid on innovation. I'm going to start with you. What are we facing? Why is there so much entrenched skepticism, and why are they so slow afoot?
I mean, I think home building hits the same problem that a lot of industries do, is we've done something a certain way for a number of years, and there's not an incentive to move away from that. And moving into the unknown is more difficult than staying with what you've always done. So you've got to get over that piece, and you've got to show that there's more value in going through the pain of introducing something new.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier not to warranty something if you don't offer it. It's a lot easier to not add it into the build schedule. It's a lot easier to not have to worry about something new. And so if you can get over that and say that, yes, you can not do it, but somebody else is going to do it, and they're going to sell more homes, and it's going to affect your bottom line, I think that's how you incite them to change.
So the bias is the operational complexity of doing something new, right? And and feature set and competitiveness be damned. I just don't want the risk of operationally having to incorporate this. And you seem like you got an opinion on this, Frank.
Okay, people I work with will say, yeah, Frank definitely has an opinion on everything.
And you're the right
so
man
many
for a
different
bull
things.
session.
Yeah. One thing I'll say is that nobody wants to be a pioneer because they end up face down with arrows in their back on the prairie. So to have a regional guy jump out in front, right, is something that's going to be challenging for anybody to talk to, unless you can really tell them the value proposition. I think a lot of it is on the vendors who, I'm going to go after D.R. Horton because, boy, if I get them in, as opposed to let's just win with the ground game and talk to the maybe smaller, and that's where the traction, and then the DR Horton's going to have to pay attention, is another thought. But it comes down to talking to the builder, understanding what it is they really need, and the thought of, well, my people don't want it. As a vendor, as a manufacturer, I run that into with distributors. Nobody wants this. How do you know? Nobody's asking for it. Well, if they don't know about it, how can they ask for it? So how can we help the regional builders get the word out, or at least get them some voice of customer stuff?
Yeah.
So it's on the vendor as much as it's on the regional.
The dryer ventilation piece is not at the top of the list.
Not at all.
In terms of the buyer asking for it. Now, what about that dryer ventilation piece?
It's so interesting you say that, because I talk to different builders and say, here's the thing. It's minimal to you. But when you're talking to a homeowner and say, look, here's how much thought we've put into the dryer ventilation system, imagine the thought we've put into the rest of the home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a big deal to the homeowner, but when you talk about we're putting in the dryer box, we're putting a high efficiency elbow, we're putting a high efficiency vent termination in there, and that's just for the dryer vent system. Yep. Imagine the things we've done and consider with the rest of your home.
Yeah.
And that becomes powerful.
Cool.
But a builder's not going to come up with that on their own.
You've sold me. I need a dryer vent safety solution. But I think, John, to your question about the bias, I think that when people look at technology, they're doing it in order to be competitive. And if you go back a few years, coming out of COVID, they didn't need technology to be competitive. It was homes were selling like crazy. But we're seeing right now, it's obviously affordability is a concern, and it's much more competitive. They need to drive buyers into their homes and sell them. A lot of builders aren't making their market to the street right now. And so I think the message, like the second bias, is that builders have tried it and they've had issues, but that's been predominantly when they've tried to do it themselves. They've tried to do a technology solution that was maybe a DIY focused solution. They're going to have their own construction people manage it, or maybe just having some technology that they have for the customer and require the home buyer to set it up.
Yeah.
But what we've found is that is not what drives an optimal experience. What drives an optimal experience, it has the wow factor of technology, is when you have a trade partner that's setting it up for the home buyer. So when they walk in, they have a single app to control all the devices in their home. Mm-hmm. So I think it's, you don't need to do it alone. You have trusted people, trusted vendor and trades partners that can help you roll out a smart home program.
Yep.
That really can get rid of that bias of challenges.
What about the software side? I mean, do you find that regional builders are a little behind the curve on making investments in things like ERPs, or are they more comparable to the rate of innovation that we would see with the bigger guys?
There's so few products that are innovative on the market, and they've been around such a short amount of time that it's really not fair to the builders to say they're not adopting fast enough, because I don't think the industry was there for them.
You're talking about the software solution side of things?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think there's some new stuff that's coming up. I'd like to consider that we're in that bucket.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of builders that adopted what was probably cutting edge in the late 90s, maybe some of them maybe more like the early 90s. Uh-huh. And then the industry hasn't innovated enough to keep up with them. And so they're stuck in these antiquated systems, not because of their position, but because of the fact the market didn't offer a better solution.
Do you think the state of solutions that have been developed for the market, the mainstream, is more aimed at the billion-dollar-plus builders, and that's been not so?
No, in fact, some of the systems that the biggest builders run on are really antiquated. Uh-huh. The ERP solutions and things like that, they're having to cobble things together that are big enough to handle the scale and the volume they do. I'd say their systems are probably worse.
Yeah. What is innovative about your stuff? Obviously, you feel like you're out ahead. I mean, what are your differentiators? Why would a regional builder jump in with you on systems like yours?
So one thing that's different, and it's not different from the solution you proposed on the alarm.com front. There's one place to go for everything. So a lot of the softwares that are on the market today, and that have been on the market for decades. They've gone through, they developed a core offering, and then when it was time to offer something else, they went out and they bought somebody who did that thing fairly well. So they might have bought somebody who did it fairly well in 99, and then somebody bought another system that kind of bolted on in 2004, and they would just bolt these things together, and you end up with this hodgepodge that doesn't really meet anyone's needs, but it sort of serves the market. It would be, I think, similar, again, to your analogy of I've got 9 different systems that I can use to run my house. That's an okay answer, and it's maybe better than no solution, but when you have one that can do everything, it's pretty game changing. And so everything we've built from the ground up. So we don't have any technologies that we bought and bolted on. We just built it all. Yeah. And so it's a pretty different experience. And it's easier for us. And I think it's easier to convince a commercial user like a builder that you need to use 5 different systems. But I would assume if it's hard to convince somebody for their business to run in 5 different systems, I don't know how you convince a homeowner to run in 5 different systems. I think you couldn't. Yeah. Which is why I like the idea of the single spot to log in. And I'm a user of alarm.com, so I'm a fan.
Frank, talk about, how your company is innovating, because you talked about the core product, right, in terms of the dryer ventilation and the safety issues, which I don't think we talked about it before we got up here, but this fact just really grabbed a hold of me in terms of the fire safety, the life safety.
Over 15,000 house fires are reported annually that start in the dryer. Yeah. That's what's reported. That's not something that somebody put the fire out on their own, or we deal with service companies that send us pictures of charred lint in the back of a dryer. So it's a real issue. It's a real problem. Matter of fact, a lot of companies that do dryer vent cleaning are current or retired firemen because they've seen so many fires and they know there's a real need. So that's
there's an intersection of opportunity there with you guys.
Yeah. That's the real focus of the company. And it was a great niche to be in because everyone else was just making vent terminations with no worry about code. Yeah. And there is specific code for dryer ventilation because of the fire hazard. So that's where we really got into understanding airflow, efficiencies of airflow. And we have a product that actually increases airflow efficiency 500% in the ductwork that builders still at the builder show say, wow, I never knew about this thing. It's been around over 15 years. Mm-hmm. So that's any size builder. So that's where we try and innovate, but now we're well known and we need to diversify. So we're looking at whole home ventilation because tighter envelopes, the home has to breathe. Yep. Biggest thing with the dryer needed to breathe. Now the home has to breathe. So what can we do to take some of our experience and expand our offering?
And do you feel like the regional builder building, 50 plus, let's say to 350 or 400 homes, do they get build, tight, and ventilate? I mean, are they on this now? Are they on the case?
They are building tight. I don't know if they're ventilating unless it's required. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, I was talking to a builder from West Virginia, saying, they told us to build tight, build tight, build tight. And now they're telling us we got to poke holes in all that to let the home breathe.
Isn't this building to code part of the issue? This whole dogma, like build to code, be competitive on price and deliver personal service, have a local brand, like that's the formula for competing. Feature sets be damned, innovate, like it's easy to build to code because you have to do it. Right. But there's so much to be gained by being at least a little bit better than code. I mean, speak to that. I mean, you were a CF no, right? So you were saying no to some of this stuff, right? Yeah. Or maybe you weren't.
Yeah, and I if it was something that they could add, that they could show the value, I mean, you did a good job listing out the value to having your product that the builder hopefully could translate to a buyer. I think that's probably the piece that maybe is missing. If you've got an in-house brokerage and you can go in and teach your agents how to sell something like that, then it's easy to say yes to a product. If you can go in and explain why putting this in your house reduces your risk of fire, it's not a hard sell. I think you could easily get there, and I'd say yes to that. If there's no way to convince the buyer of value, then you're not going to probably convince the CFO of value.
And do we not have code that's insisting on fresh air ventilation on a tightly built? I mean, not everywhere.
There is, and then some of the things as far as with ERV and fresh air intake stuff, that's still not. I look at New Orleans, and if you're going to do a remodeling there or whatever. Well, the old homes there, they're breathing like crazy. So if you're doing a remodeling, you don't have to have that requirement because the home's already breathing, the older construction stuff. So it does become pocketed. It is really geared towards new construction.
Yeah.
But the thought that I've come up with that I just want to ask opinion. So in manufacturing, when it comes time to change a manufacturing process, that decision is made by ownership, not by the labor force. Because I'm just going to train them how to use the new machines. I'm wondering if in building, and we talk about regional guys, is it the labor force that's determining how much change? Because it is almost more of an apprenticeship type of learned, and my grandfather did it this way, and regional builders, we made a name for ourselves, and our reputation is what's going to get it. And making sure we can do it cheaply is what's going to make us money. Is that something too why regionals don't adapt? Because that's the way Grandpa taught me, and we have a name, and that's what we need to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you can't get it installed, it doesn't matter how good the product is. I mean, if you could convince me that Alarm.com is the best product on the planet, but if in the middle of Idaho I don't have somebody who can install it, it's really irrelevant.
I think part of the issue why smart technology is not getting adopted, and to your question, is that most of the time vendors and manufacturers are dealing with builders, procurement people, and they don't want to allow them in to meet with their design people, meet with their salespeople, so they can help train and educate the value of the product. Because that's actually how, when the sales agents feel like it's going to help them sell more homes, they can feel confident about the product because they were trained on it. Then you get the wow factor of the technologies. Because I think that's probably one of the biggest hurdles of getting smart tech adopted.
And you guys have done a great job of developing assets on the sales and marketing side of things. A lot of other companies have kind of just left that to chance. And we know what happens when you leave it to chance. It just doesn't happen. But I like the idea of getting, we love purchasing, but we need to get to purchasing at the right time. And we know what their incentives are, which is to beat you up on price. There are other types of purchasing folks out there, but I think you do need a broader education on some of these innovations for sure. What do you think? You lived it.
Yeah, I think the salespeople have to be excited about it, and the vendors have to know, or the installers have to know how to put the product in. And if not, you end up with warranty, and then nobody wants the product.
But will a regional builder let salespeople, Alarm.com and their integrators, and Frank, will they let them get to a broader cross-section of the company, or are you going to keep them caged into talking to purchasing people?
Yeah, so a builder that's got their own in-house salespeople that really have salespeople and not door greeters, I absolutely think they would. But oftentimes, a regional builder is going to rely on local real estate agents to do their listings. And they may be great agents, but it's probably a little harder to get them as a captive audience to go and explain your product because you're one of maybe 100 products they're selling.
Yeah, you would have an ability to train real estate agents, or just you have assets that could be used, right?
Yeah, and that also is, the different ways that the vendors are going to meet with the home buyer through the process. So it's like if you have a technology platform, but then allow them to meet through the design center or early in the construction process, or even a post-close. I mean, I think that's the thing is, home builders need to think about what is their technology strategy. Do they want it to be a margin-based solution where they're meeting with the home buyers and selling products during construction, but there's also a lot of opportunity to just have it be post-close and not have it impact their production schedule. So it really just depends on what they're looking for.
There's so many ways to skin the cat on the smart home side of things, and it could be a lot of complexity and involvement in the design and construction process, or none, right? It could just be more of a commission-based structure. There's no reason not to do it. D.R. Horton's got it at the top of their page. Zillow New Construction that did the research. They've shown that smart home demand has more than doubled since COVID. And it's just going to keep going up with Gen Y and Gen Z dominating the buying behavior. So you've got a puzzled look on your face.
Well, I've got a question for you. So I'm the builder, and I let you come in after the fact to talk to my clients. At that point, maybe I'm getting some goodwill from the clients, but presumably the house is sold, so it doesn't do me anything. Unless, is there an opportunity for some sort of annuity arrangement with an Alarm.com?
Yeah, so it's, on the front end, margin dollars on sold products. If it's a post-close program, then usually it gets back to rebate dollars based on conversion of products.
Okay, so it's still a rebate.
Yeah.
Okay. No annuity structure out there?
Different partners are looking for different ways to get builders interested. So
There's definitely builders out there that have tapped into recurring revenue.
Yeah.
I mean, probably Toll Brothers, which has its own smart home division. It's like a discrete company, and their relationship with Criticom over the years is probably the best example of somebody getting a big share of the recurring revenue. But those are all things to be negotiated, but you got to give the buyer what they want. So any final thoughts on this? I don't know whether we made any progress. It still seems like it's a conundrum. Maybe we have some little tactical stuff. How about you? What do you think?
Well, I know I started off bashing the vendors, saying we're not paying attention to the regional guys because we want the big fish.
Yeah.
But by the same token, regional guys have to be willing to take calls. There's no harm in taking a call. And if you send everyone through a shield of defense, the stuff that gets through may not be great. So that's one thing, be willing to take calls. And my family business is education, so it all comes down to educating, understanding what people are really having problems with, but educating the whole value proposition. This is how it's going to benefit you.
So you want to do that. You're ready to do that.
Ready
Just
to do it.
Unlock the cage.
Give me an open mic like this.
Good luck getting through the shield if you're calling in. I think that's where programs like this are probably the most valuable, is you get that person in the mindset ready to receive the information. They come by, they learn about the product, and then maybe you're past that shield and can keep going. But yeah, if you can figure out a way to get past the shield, I'll pay you a royalty.
Shield, the heat shield as it re-enters the atmosphere. What about any good of the order final thoughts?
yeah, I think just kind of final thoughts is that, in the previous sessions, there was that whole comment about, new versus used homes. And, technology is one of those things that can be a huge differentiator. I want connected lights in all the smart lights in my house. Well, my house was built in 1956. And to replace all those electrical switches for a homeowner is very challenging to do it. It's much more suitable for customers to get that in a new construction home being built. And then I would just say, for the regional builders, you don't have to do it alone. There's a lot of trades partners that can help you roll out a program. And then make sure you're picking the right one that is, they're going to be there helping provide the end user, the home buyer customer support throughout that whole journey. And so you don't have to deal with warranty issues. You don't have to deal with issues about doorbells falling offline. They will handle that and take the operational cost off there.
It sounds like fear of vendors is the big theme, and we got to figure out a way. You guys either have to be more approachable, or we got to figure out a way to bring the fear level down and the trust level, at least for a conversation, up.